It's the boy, Bubba, let's coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's your boy, Bubba, let's. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth and everything that is not fake.
Hello, Bubba Bunch, and welcome back to another episode of the Bubba Lutz Sports Podcast. I am Bubba Lutz, and this is episode 191, Winners and Losers of NFL Week 11. Tough day, I would say. The day before Thanksgiving. We're already going into Week 12, and I'm barely doing Winners and Losers. I'm barely doing the preview for the Washington game. That's going to happen in like literally 12 hours. And been a hectic day at work, stressful, tiring. This is literally the only time that I've gotten today to do a podcast. And I've been super excited to do Winners and Losers all day. But then just hard news hits. So before we get into the Winners and Losers, let me just say my prayers, my condolences go out to both the Diego Maradona family and also to the Marcus Paul family from the Dallas Cowboys, strength and conditioning coach for them. Passed away earlier today after being taken to the hospital yesterday before practice and, needing medical attention, And I don't know the severity of his passing, but this man's won 5 Super Bowls with different teams. He is beloved by a lot of these Cowboys players, as you could see on Twitter and on social media in general. So, to leave a mark on the NFL like he did, you're not going to really pay attention to strength and conditioning coaches all the time. But this man did a lot for the sport and has won a lot of freaking Super Bowls. So, he left his mark, and we're going to miss him. As a Cowboys fan myself, you can never want anything like that to ever happen, especially while he's on the job doing what he loves. So, prayers go out to the Paul family. My prayers go out to a guy that also impacted his sport, Diego Maradona, one of the greatest to ever do it. Passed away due to cardiac arrest earlier today as well. He's been dealing with a lot of health issues over the years, and you sense that he was just enjoying life for many years, and he's been having these issues, but he continued to do what he loved, and that's be a part of the game that he influenced so many young players and players now that are playing all around the world to be the greatest. And Maradona is one of those examples. You see Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi always mention Maradona, but for them to post pictures with him, it was definitely hard to see. So again, prayers go out and condolences go out to both of these families. It's a tough day, especially the day before Thanksgiving. So hopefully those families are getting through it pretty well. We're all going to be there for them. This goes out to both of those families. Let's get it. Winners and losers of Week 11. You know what winners get.
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
Losers. And the honorable mention of the week, which this week is the greatest of all time. No doubt in my mind. You will fall in love with this guy as soon as you see one video on him. But that man deserves.
And I want my damn respect too.
First winner of the week, ladies and gentlemen, is... Well, before I say that, I got to slow my roll. Okay. Well, I was watching some other games, and I was like, I'm pretty sure on how this game is going to go, so I'm not going to really pay attention to it now. Maybe watch it later. And then I watched the result, and I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. So then, yesterday, watched the game, and I was like, oh. And I'm talking about the Houston Texans and the New England Patriots game. Now, I thought the New England Patriots, who need a win in order to stay in the playoff contention, go against a Houston Texans team that has just lost their season. Deshaun Watson hasn't played as well as previous years. They have Romeo Crennel as their coach right now, but who knows if that's going to be the long-term solution for them. They have a terrible defense. They don't know how to run the ball, and their offensive weapons, they have a lot of them, don't know how to use them, though. So I expect the Patriots to win this game, continue their playoff push. And I see 27-20, and I'm like, what? And then I watched the game, and I was like, oh, it's Deshaun Watson. My first winner of the week is Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans. Now, it's not just Watson. I think the Houston Texans played the best game they've played all year long. As a 2-7 team at this point, things are not looking good in Houston. But credit to Romeo Crennel and this group for coming out guns blazing and playing a overall tremendous game on both sides of the ball. Offensively, what's Deshaun Watson? Defensively, their secondary played well. They were very physical. Up front, they got to Cam Newton. They pressured him. They tipped balls. They batted balls. I think it was like a total of four or five. And in critical situations as well, second downs, third downs, late in this game, it was amazing to watch how good Houston was on Sunday. And this is against a New England Patriots team that, coming off of last week's win against Baltimore, looked really good. Some promising things in the future to come in New England, especially with Josh Uche, especially with Kyle Duggar, Damian Harris. And I'm saying, like, this doesn't make sense to me how they lose. And then I watched the game, I'm like, look, they still played well. Like, all of these guys that I just mentioned. Damian Harris had a good day. Not the best day, but a good day. Kyle Duggar was all around the field, and he was physical. I mean, tackling left and right. He was present. That defensive front, though, with the pass rush, non-existent. And you know I'm critical about Cam Newton. Cam Newton played well. I think Cam Newton made some really good throws, made some really good decisions, and he wasn't making the same mistakes that I am so accustomed to seeing out of Cam Newton. So I don't think right now, if you ask me, is Cam Newton the problem? I would say absolutely not. I'm just looking at this team, I'm saying, you know, they have a lot of guys that are injured. They have a lot of guys that are opted out due to COVID. And especially, like, one guy that stood out to me in that game that did not have a good day was N'Keal Harry. Coming off a shoulder injury and a concussion earlier in the season, N'Keal Harry just did not look up to par compared to Damiere Byrd and Jacoby Myers. But I still feel like this group is good. I'm never going to give up on Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. So that's why, to me, this Houston Texans win for them is meaningful. And this is something they can bounce off of for the rest of the season. So let's talk about Deshaun Watson, though. Because Deshaun Watson was the number one key to this game. And I don't know what it is about Deshaun Watson against Bill Belichick and the Patriots. But every single time Watson knows what to do, is not scared at all of a team that is a dynasty for 20 years, and comes in confident, just ready to go. Deshaun Watson in this game, if you want to talk about a guy that steps up as a quarterback, you watch this game. 121.9 passer rating, almost close to perfect. 344 yards. Mind you, that this is a one-dimensional team right now on offense, because combined, and you take away the Watson runs, combined from their running backs, they have 19 rushing yards. They have David Johnson on IR, they have Duke Johnson, they had CJ Prosise, 19 rushing yards from their running backs. That is stupid. That's Deshaun Watson. Look at some of his throws in this game. And not just some, a lot of his throws in this game. He threw rockets. I'm talking about Deshaun Dimes here. He is so confident and so precise in his throws. He's throwing to tight windows, and he wasn't scared about Stephon Gilmore. He wasn't scared against J.C. Jackson or any of the McCourty brothers. He was not scared at all. And Randall Cobb goes out in this game due to injury. So guess who steps up? My boy, Kiki QT, for his first touchdown in his career in the NFL. So Deshaun Watson, Houston Texans, Romeo Crennel against the New England Patriots.
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
Absolutely sensational performance out of the Houston Texans. If you want to watch the best Houston Texans team possible, you go and watch the game against the Patriots. Number 2 winner of the week is also another quarterback. And even though he loses, I still think he did a lot to prove people wrong, like he's been doing all year long. This man was about to lose his job last year. And going into this season, Marcus Mariota comes into town, and you're thinking, well, the Derek Carr era is over. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you right now, I was on the bandwagon. I was on the train for Derek Carr being one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league. And nobody talked about it. No one joined me. I got a lonesome bus over here. I got a lonesome train over here. The train's leaving. I'm gone. Because Derek Carr's my boy. Y'all criticized him. Y'all thought he was done. He was average. 119.7 passer rating with 3 touchdowns, a meaningless interception at the end of the game. Like I talked about with Deshaun Watson, this man is making confident throws, precise throws, and he knew that he needed to step up, especially coming off that win against the Chiefs earlier in the season. You know, the victory lap around Arrowhead. This needed to happen for the Raiders, whether it was a tight game and prove that you're not just a fluke or winning this football game. I get it. The Chiefs still come out with this victory because Patrick Mahomes is just a god. And he's in number one. He's in the number one spot for MVP right now. I'm sorry, Russell Wilson, but Patrick Mahomes is just at a different level right now. But no one seems to talk about how good the Raiders played overall, but especially Derek Carr. Their secondary played really well considering what they had to deal with. Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. I know that Travis Kelce went for over 100 yards, and he was dominating this game. But, I mean, I think any team would struggle with that. And the Raiders did all they could. They had a lot of, troubles with the COVID situation and the protocols earlier in the week. A lot of those guys were on the list right before the game. I mean, let's just talk about Max Crosby for a second. The dude was born like 11 pounds. He looks like a problem. He's a problem. The double XL Max Crosby is absolutely dominating. And he did that against the Chiefs as well. So credit to him. And then this offense, Darren Waller gets involved. Nelson Aguilar gets involved. And Hunter Renfrow. You didn't see a lot of Henry Ruggs, which was kind of disappointing. But the Chiefs made it apparent that they did not want Josh Jacobs to control this game in the time of possession. And it was a shootout at first. The Chiefs did a very good job of handling Josh Jacobs. I think Steve Spagnuolo was mentioning that he thinks Josh Jacobs is the purest running back in the NFL right now. And I'm not going to disagree with him. So they made it a game plan to stop Josh Jacobs. Well, that left the Chiefs defense to say, Derek Carr, you're going to need to win this game in the air. Well, I think Derek Carr not only took up that task, he excelled at that task. And even though they come out with the loss at 35-31, I still think that the Raiders are in a very good spot to get a wild card in the AFC and be a sleeper team in this AFC playoff picture. They played well against the Chiefs. No matter what you say, it's a loss at the end of the day. Cool. Derek Carr stepped up to the plate against one of the best defensive talented teams in the NFL. You're talking about a great defensive front and a secondary that won them or was a big reason why they won a Super Bowl last year. Tyrann Mathieu, Rashad Breeland, they are elite level secondary and front seven guys. So for Derek Carr to play that well against a good defense, and he was near perfect in my eyes, Derek Carr.
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
Last winner of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Kind of a, nice little win, Just nice to see this. My third winner is the Rams versus Buccaneers officiating crew. Now, Bubba, what the fuck are you talking about? You're giving an officiating crew some bubbly? Huh? I'm telling you right now. When I saw this tweet, I smiled. And I was like, for everything that's happened in the last year, it's Just nice to see this. For the first time in NFL history, an officiating crew featured all African American officials. Excuse me. We're talking about referee Jerome Bugger, talking about Barry Anderson, Julian Mapp, Carl Johnson, Dale Shaw, Anthony Jeffries, and Greg Steed. The first group in NFL history to be all African American officiating a game. In prime time too, in a really good matchup against the Rams and the Bucks. This was nice. This was really nice. And it's shocking that this was the first time that's ever happened. So maybe that's not the best thing in the world. But they are now a part of history. A good group of officials. And, I mean, it's nice. It's really nice to see. I'm kind of out of words for this one. Because it's a nice, wholesome story for the NFL. They needed it. I mean, it's been a rough year for them. So, all those guys being a part of history, you deserve.
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
Now, I know we don't give bubbly to honorable mentions, but I feel like this is the exception. My honorable mention of the week is the stud himself, the reigning and defending best kicker in the NFL, hit the game winner against the Packers in overtime, Rodrigo Blankenship. This is my guy. He's it. He's built different. The Georgia Bulldog himself that would kick so clutch in college. I mean, if you needed 3 points, Rodrigo was your guy. He got the specs too. He gets all the ladies. And now he's on Pat McAfee's show. I forget who asked him. I think it was just in the press conference for the Colts. But they just asked him, are you a big fan of Legos? Or like, what do you like to do on your off time? And he's like, I have a lot of Legos. I'm a big fan of Marvel. I like Legos a lot. I like Transformers. I like the Marvel series. And then he just shouts out his girlfriend for some reason. For no reason. But he's like, she's my rock. I love her. And I'm like, Rodrigo, if she doesn't take care of you, I will, sir. Rodrigo Blankenship is the new star of the NFL. Move over Patrick Mahomes. Move over Russell Wilson. Move over every other rookie. Because Rodrigo Blankenship is taking over the NFL. I love this man. And I am super close to buying a Rodrigo Blankenship jersey. I don't know why. I just watched the Lego video and I was hooked. I'm in. Anything that Rodrigo wants, I will do. Because there's only one Rodrigo Blankenship. Always replicated, never duplicated. Rodrigo Blankenship, not only do you get...
And I want my damn respect too.
But just because I love you so much, and if I could get him on the podcast, I'm going to shoot my shot. I'm going to shoot my shot. I'm going to tweet and DM Rodrigo Blankenship. And I would like to have him on the podcast. Let's make it happen. For any of you that are out there that want to help me out, tweet at Rodrigo Blankenship. I will tweet out this video. I will take this clip and I will put it on Twitter. Rodrigo, I'm a big fan. I've loved you since Georgia. I would love to have you on the podcast. And because I love you so much, you may not know the tradition here, but winners of the week, they get a little bit of the bubbly. Rodrigo, you can have the whole bottle. Rodrigo, I hope to see you soon. You deserve.
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
See you soon, buddy. Losers. I am so angry when I found out about this player going down. And I have no one to be mad at more or blame anybody but the Bengals offensive line. Joe Burrow blew out his knee. Torn ACL, torn MCL, damage to his knee. And I said it was coming. This hurts. This really does hurt because at the beginning of the season, I said that Joe Burrow has the potential to be the biggest bust in NFL history. Not because of his play, not because of his talent, because of his organization. Because they do not know what they're doing. And even with a terrible, terrible coaching staff, a terrible offensive line, Joe Burrow made it happen. Joe Burrow balled out in more than half this season, in his first season in the NFL. I mean, right there with Justin Herbert as far as Rookie of the Year. And for him to go down against the Washington football team in such a gruesome fashion, I have no one to blame but the offensive line and that coaching staff, that front office. I mean, that whole organization except for Joe Burrow. Let's look at the offensive line for the Bengals. I looked up some stats just to make sure that I'm not overreacting here. The offensive line for the Bengals is the second worst in football in QB sacks given up per game, and they have given up the most sacks, the second most sacks in the NFL this season. I think with like 36. The only other team that's that bad is the Philadelphia Eagles with 40. Guys, if you're watching this, I want you to look in my eyes. I want you to look deep into my eyes. And if you're listening to this, hear the pain in my voice. With 36 sacks given up by that offensive line, Joe Burrow still well over 3,000 yards. Touchdowns all over the place. Putting them in a position to win many games. He goes down and blows out his knee. Giving up 40 sacks this year. Carson Wentz single-handedly is one of the worst in the NFL at turnovers. Himself has more turnovers than more than half the league. Carson Wentz literally can't play football anymore. I don't understand how he's a starter. He turns the ball over more than Daniel Jones, more than most teams in the NFL. Joe Burrow is winning awards. Joe Burrow is having a stud season. This man was on the race to win Rookie of the Year. Yet Carson Wentz is about to get benched with equal bad offensive lines. And you're telling me that Joe Burrow gets injured? Joe Burrow has to go down? The Bengals' offensive line, it's the last thing I'll say about this. More than half of their offensive line, it's their left tackle, left guard, and right tackle, have a combined 3 years of experience. 3 years. One's a rookie. 2 of them were drafted in 2019. Now, you may not read that much into it because, I mean, you could have a guy come out of college like Tristan Wirfs or Mekhi Becton. You have great guys that come out of college. No. Their rookie that they drafted this season came in the 6th round. They did not focus on offensive line until the 6th round of the NFL draft. Now, Joe Burrow, the 1st round, I get it. 2nd round, T. Higgins, steal. But then where's the 3rd and 4th and 5th round where you get a linebacker? Where you get, I think, a corner. And you wait until the 6th round to get a lineman to protect Joe Burrow? Tua literally got everybody to Miami. They drafted a good amount of offensive linemen. Looked into free agency. They're bulking up. Yet in Cincinnati, it's different. With a better quarterback. Okay. Start the Joe Burrow deserves better campaign. Oh, he deserves a lot better. Second loser of the week is the Detroit Lions. I've officially given up on the Detroit Lions. I was a fan of Matt Patricia getting hired as the head coach in 2018. And I felt like, hey, they need some time. It's not going to be an immediate transition. It's not going to be immediate change for the better. It's going to take some time here. Especially a defensive-minded coach. That offense with a new coaching staff, yeah, they'll need some time to grow. And they've had their struggles. Believe me, they've had their struggles. All the turmoil in the locker room, and their defense being one of the worst in the NFL, especially for a defensive-minded coach, doesn't make sense. I felt like this offseason was going in the right direction. I felt like finally we get some traction in Detroit with the addition of DeAndre Swift, who was amazing in college. You keep Kerryon Johnson. Adrian Peterson, might as well add depth. So the running backs are set. Wide receivers, Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones Jr., absolute beast at wide receiver. And they got Tyler at tight end. That is impressive to watch. In their defense, they add on Jeff Okudah. They get Desmond Trufant in free agency. They may not have the best defensive front like they used to. But, I mean, they continue to do moves. They got Everson Griffin, and he's been playing well. But I felt like Jeff Okudah and Desmond Trufant in that secondary was going to be a problem for many, many offenses. They've won a couple of games. They won 4. But the same Carolina Panthers team that gave up 46 points to the Tampa Bay Bucks, you score 0. PJ Walker throws a couple of interceptions. You get more possessions on your offense. And what does Matthew Stafford, one of the most experienced quarterbacks in the NFL, well over like 10 years of experience, and known as the gunslinger, known as a high stat guy, threw for under 200 yards, I think. Didn't score a touchdown. Their running game had a combined 35 rushing yards. Their defense, I mean, like 20 points is okay, but I mean, the Panthers aren't the best offense in the world, but you couldn't stop DJ Moore. I'm always a big guy on progression. I'm always a guy that if I see elevation, if I see more positive things as the weeks go on, then I say, we'll see how it goes. I'm a patient person. Since 2018, I've been very patient with Matt Patricia. It is time to move on. I like to give a coach 2 to 3 years to really settle in and see if he's making that progress. It's time's up. Time's up for Matt Patricia. And losing 20-0 in a league that is offensive minded and is going to score points to where shutouts are not even a thing anymore, you go out and lay a goose egg on the Carolina Panthers against a young defense that still needs a lot of work. Matthew Stafford couldn't throw 1 touchdown. That running game couldn't go over 50 yards rushing. No. Detroit, I'm sorry. Once again, you're back to where you started. Last loser, and this one hurts a little bit more because this was my sleeper team out of the NFC East. NFC, sorry. I don't know why I always say NFC East. They're just always on my mind because because of how bad they are. There you go. But for the NFC, it was a huge matchup against the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday night last week. A disappointing loss for the Cardinals by how they played. They looked off. They looked out of sync. And I don't even think the Seahawks were a far superior team. I think the Cardinals just didn't show up. And this is the type of game to where if you look back after the Cardinals get kicked out of the playoffs or they don't make the playoffs, this is the game that will be like, oh, that's why. It's a close game, 28-21, but the most important thing to look into here is the fact that they had 10 penalties for over 110 yards. And those penalties were horrible. And they were significant. One of those penalties led to a safety and gave the ball back to Seattle in the second half. You cannot do that. There's a lot of holding calls. There's a lot of false starts, especially false starts, in a time to where crowd noise doesn't really matter. And yet, the Cardinals just did not look in sync. The problem that you have with a young coach like Cliff Kingsbury, who comes out of college and wants to run a high-octane offense that is perfect for Kyler Murray, is that discipline is a hard thing to come by. And I love Cliff Kingsbury, and I think he's a tremendous offensive coach, but we're seeing the Cardinals be the worst team in the NFL with penalties. They are averaging 8 to 9 penalties a game. That's not going to win you games. That is not going to get you far into the playoffs. And this was a very important game. You beat the Seahawks the first time on Sunday night. Great. You get that momentum going. You make them feel threatened by your presence in that NFC West. And you need to win these games. I mean, Arizona, alongside Los Angeles and alongside Seattle, are right next to each other in that division. 49ers could come out of nowhere and take a game from any of these teams, especially late in the season. So it's very important to win your divisional games because it's either two really good teams out of this division go out and one's left out to dry, and you wish you would have had them instead of an NFC East team, but that's just not how it works. And, I mean, this is a punch in the gut for Arizona because they killed themselves. They shot themselves in the foot. This had nothing to do with Seattle being great because that defense is still pretty bad. They had a pretty good showing in this game. I don't know what it was. I feel like it was just for them. It was a pride thing. It was an ego thing for them to play well against the Arizona Cardinals, who beat them up a few weeks ago. So, of course, the divisional games are always going to be more important, and you're going to play better in those games. So, I don't know what to think about the Seattle Seahawks defense, whether they're actually getting better or this was a one-time thing. I just think that if Arizona would have shown up, I think this would have been a better game for them that would have led to a win. So, again, Seattle, don't know what to think of them. I'm not invested in them. I'm more invested in the Arizona Cardinals, but if they continue with these penalties, it's not going to get them anywhere. Their defense played good. Their offense had their moments. Kyler Murray's great, but if you cannot be disciplined, then none of it matters. You can have the best offense in the NFL. If you get false starts and you get holding calls that disrupt your drives, then there's no point. Kyler, you can throw all the touchdowns you want, but it's not going to matter at the end of the year when you're getting 10 penalties for over 110 yards and it leads to points for the other team. Can't happen. Absolutely can't happen. Arizona Cardinals, I'm disappointing in you. I hope this is a one-time thing. That is going to do it for winners and losers of the NFL Week 11 edition. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Man, it's really late. I don't even know if I can do a Washington preview. Screw it. Cowboys win. Cowboys win. Oh, I'm gonna hate myself for that later on. I know that it's just gonna be a bad game. Cowboys win, but ugly. They win ugly. The only thing that threatens me is the defensive line for the Washington football team. That group is dangerous. They are scary. Offensively, though, I mean, Alex Smith is not intimidating at all. I'm sorry. But then so is Andy Dalton. Like, he's not. I don't know. We'll see. We'll come back. We'll probably do the review on Friday. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah, we could probably do it Friday. All right, guys. So, we'll see you next time on the Bubba Lutz Sports Podcast.
Yeah, hold on. Tell me who's your top 5 quarterbacks right now, dead or alive, huh? And how much do you care about a ring if the best player got carried by the team? Now, would you lose if it been a better draft pick? And do you cuss when your team get their ass kicked? Now, do you keep it classy or you keep it ratchet?